There's a bunch of crazy stories written by the Brothers Grimm. And now you're gonna learn all about them, listening to the Brothers Grimm.
Students and scholars, friends and relations, welcome to the Brothers Dim podcast, where we discuss the funny little collection of fairy tales collected and written down by the Brothers Grimm in the early 19th century in Germany, including this week's story, number 50, The Sleeping Beauty, Briar Rose. My name is Phil.
Hey, my name is Mike.
Mike, how are you doing?
I think I'm doing okay. It's been an interesting summer. A lot of driving, a lot of camps. How about yourself? What have you been up to?
Starting this coming Monday, my first day at the new job, so I'm actually kind of excited about getting back to work. So
Nice.
excited about that. But also to you and to all the students and scholars and fans we have, I'm just delighted to be speaking to you today for this, our 50th episode. And Mike, if you do not mind, I've prepared a little speech.
Cannot wait.
Mike, I'm not covetous for gold, nor care I who doth feed upon my cost. It yearns me not if men my garments wear, such outward things dwell not in my desires. But if it be a sin for men from Massachusetts to covet honor, I am the most offending soul alive. For this day is called our 50th episode. He that outlives this day and comes safe home will stand tiptoe when the day is named. Rouse him at the name of the Brothers Dim. He that shall live this day and see old age will yearly on the vigil feast his neighbors and say tomorrow is the anniversary, the 50th episode of the Brothers Dim podcast. Then will he strip his sleeve and show his tattoos and say, these wounds I had on that day. Old men forget, yet all shall be forgot. But he'll remember with advantages what feats he did that day, that laughed and learned, shared and enjoyed with us upon this, the 50th episode of the Brothers Dim podcast. He did right, and he did honor to us all.
That was beautiful. My God.
I want to make clear, I did not directly lift that from Shakespeare.
Definitely.
I digress. Big number, big story, not quite the way I remember things.
Yeah, no, it's a little different.
Kudos to Disney for actually taking a grim story and making it more menacing. Anyways, do you have anything you would like to say on this, our 50th episode?
No, it snuck up on me. I was halfway through actually reading Briar Rose when I went, this is 50. I'll be damned. So yeah, no, it's been a hell of a 50 episodes.
It's been a fun little artistic endeavor. I'm really glad I took this journey with you.
Yeah, same.
Do you have a grade for this story?
I know it's a big one, but I didn't love it. I didn't love this version.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I gave it a B.
Yeah, I was wavering. I put down an A mostly because of how big it is. But I'm not loving it. I'm fine with a B plus.
I think it's been done better. Not a lot in this story actually happens.
That's true. Yeah.
And certain people, I'm not naming names, we'll get to it, but certain people are barely relevant to the plot. I mean, I guess Aurora always was, but I digress. Yeah, I gave it a B. I was expecting S tier.
Right.
I was expecting a dragon, maybe.
Maybe we'll get it with Snow White.
Anyways, Mike, would you be so kind, because maybe our listeners have a different opinion, would you be so kind as to take us through the plot of Grimm's story number 50, The Sleeping Beauty, Briar Rose?
My pleasure. All right, stop me if you've heard this one. There once was a king and queen who wished and wished for a child but never had one. One day, the queen's out bathing. I guess this is back when you bathe in the pond.
Yeah.
And a frog hops up on the land and says to the queen, you're going to have a daughter before a year's gone by. She says, well, all right.
Frogs
And
are
sure
trustworthy, yeah.
Sure enough, it comes true. King and queen did indeed have a baby. They were so overjoyed, they ordered a royal feast to celebrate. In addition to family and friends, they invited the wise women, capital W's here. I think this is obviously the inspiration for the fairy godmothers. But I think one can assume these are sort of the witchy ladies in the village.
Right.
There were 13 of them, but the king and queen only had 12 golden plates for them to eat off of, so they were forced to leave one of them off the invite list. Wah, wah. What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah.
As it drew to a close, the celebration, the wise women lined up to bestow their magical gifts upon the child. Things like virtue and beauty and riches. After the 11th went, the 13th, uninvited wise woman bursts in looking for revenge. She yells that when the girl turns 15, she'll prick her finger on a spindle and die, and just immediately takes off. Doesn't say another word. In the shocked silence, the 12th, who had yet to go, she turns the curse from death to 100 years sleep. That's the best she can do. The king obviously has every spindle in the kingdom burned in preparation for this. As she grows, she does indeed become modest, beautiful, wise, etc. Everyone loved her. On the day that she turns 15, the king and queen were conveniently away, and so she goes gallivanting about the palace, poking her nose into everything, snooping in every room. Finally, she comes to an old tower, and at the top behind a closed door was an old woman spinning flax. They did not get all the spindles. The princess is fascinated. She's never seen a spindle before. She's never seen spinning before. She picks it up and is immediately pricked on her finger and immediately falls onto the nearby bed, asleep, as does everyone else in the castle, including mom and dad, who had just conveniently arrived home, all the animals, even the flies. The cook froze, reaching out to yank the hair of the kitchen boy for forgetting something. And then lastly, a thick hedge of thorns grows around the castle, reaching to the roof and obscuring all. Years go by. Legend grows. Many princes try and hack their way through to rescue Briar Rose, only to be caught in the thicket and die a miserable death, which Disney definitely left that one out.
Did they?
I don't think they all died.
Oh, well,
They were
probably
just
didn't
unsuccessful.
die, yeah. Okay, well, they were unsuccessful. Yeah, I you know what? It's been a while since I've seen that movie. Anyway, I digress. Go on. Yeah, so many a suitor is hacked to death by the rose bushes.
Yeah. One day, yet another prince decides he's going to give it a go, despite all the previous failures and all the legends. Unbeknownst to him, however, this happens to be the day when the 100 years is up. He arrives at the castle to find that the Wall of Thorns is now a beautiful wall of flowers that parts when he comes near. He makes his way inside and finds everyone still asleep. He creeps around, finds the tower, and finds Briar Rose at the top. He finds her so beautiful, he kisses her. And at that, she awoke and looked at him kindly. They head downstairs where everyone else is waking. The king and queen rejoice. The cook boxes the kitchen boy's ear so hard he screams. The prince and Briar Rose are married and live happily ever after, surrounded by the rotting corpses of untold princes.
Yeah.
The end.
Lot to cover here. One thing we can get out of the way right away, ATU Type 410, which is just the Sleeping Beauty, in which a princess who is magically forced into sleep, later awoken, reverses the magic. And there are hundreds and hundreds of variations of this one, which makes sense since this story has been kicking around for 700 years and 500 years for Jacob and Wilhelm.
Yeah. Practicality question here.
Okay.
She is cursed to prick her finger and die on her 15th birthday, reversed to 100 years of sleep. Still, the king is terrified, has every spindle in the kingdom burned. How did he miss one in the castle itself? Who is this old woman?
Yeah.
I think in the Disney movie, it was actually the shunned fairy in disguise, wasn't it?
Maleficent.
Oh, is that where Maleficent's from?
Yeah, Maleficent's from
Okay.
that's who Maleficent is, right?
Yeah.
It might have been. It makes sense.
It's not mentioned here by the Grimms.
Well, there's no textual evidence, but sure. Certainly the nameless and scorned wise woman has low morals, which brings us to the morality section of our podcast.
Yeah.
So I have two morals for this story, right? But one of those gets into that a little bit, which is, I don't exactly know how to describe this, but teach your kids honestly about danger, right? And don't try to hide shit because it will get discovered. It could,
Right.
and it could be a disaster. Had they taught her what a spindle was,
Yeah.
she may have been able to avoid the thing. But as we all know, fucking people in Germany love spinning.
That they do.
It's like trying to get all religion out of China or whatever. The people are still going to do it. People are still going to be like, oh, I got to spin flax. I'm German and this is what we do. Because also, like, if you don't spin flax, how the fuck are you getting shirts?
Right.
And the thing
Exactly.
is you need shirts for service.
Or to put
You
on
know.
swans.
Yeah. Or put on, exactly. It's also, a parable for the importance of sex education if we're bringing things into modern
Right.
times.
Yeah.
And the dangers of being drugged and what men are going to do to you in your sleep. The French version of this, men just rape the girl as she sleeps. But if you don't tell your kids what dangers there are out there and have them be smart enough to identify those dangers, then yeah, they're gonna just be like, oh, what's that? I guess I'll go touch it. That spindle. And it's like, if you just be like, just don't touch one of these.
But is that the moral that was intended?
Probably not the sex education, but I have another moral.
Sure.
Talk about girls with no agency in these stories. Because it's her dad that pisses off the 13th wise woman, right? So
Yeah.
the girl has exactly one paragraph of being alone in the castle and wandering around looking for shit to do. She's one thing, right? So she's awake for 3 paragraphs total. And a 15-year-old girl like that's been bored, she's not even allowed to spin.
Right. She can't even
Like,
spin.
she's just like, I guess I'll fucking go look around the castle again. Regarding logical fallacies, and this particular one is the appeal to popular opinion, which is where people believe an idea is true because it's held by many individuals or a select group of important individuals, also known as the common belief fallacy or the bandwagon fallacy. But we have here everyone telling this new prince, you can't get into that enchanted castle. Hasn't been possible in any of our lifetimes. We all believe that it'll never be possible. So you just can't get in there. And this one guy's like, well, I'll just go take a look.
What's the worst that could happen?
I'm not gonna go crazy. I'm not gonna like hack in. I'm gonna hack away a little bit, but like, that's, I guess, it is like avoid that particular logical fallacy.
Yeah,
those are my morals.
Yeah, there's definitely no one really questions the actions of that last prince. I mean, or any of the ones before it. You'd think after the seventh they'd stop.
Well, they did. I mean, that's what everyone was telling him. At a certain point, you're telling me 20 years ago some prince hacked into some rose bushes and died of the thorns. Okay, well, I mean, do you know him? And they're like, no, I know a guy that knew him.
Well, we don't know volume either. The way I read it was, at least a few a year.
I thought it was funny that the prince just happened to show up on the day the curse finished.
I know, right?
So, and this is why I give the story a B, because he just wandered in.
Yeah.
So he hears there's this death rose briar patch. He gets in, there's no death rose briar patch. There's no dragon. There's no nothing. And he didn't even fucking break the curse. He just showed up when it ended. He just happened to show up on that day. And even the kiss breaking the curse idea, that didn't happen, which is another logical fallacy.
But he kisses her anyway.
He kisses her anyways. Wow, she's fucking pretty and hot and asleep. I guess I'll just make out with her. But yeah, the kiss didn't do anything. That's the causal fallacy, where you claim a single unproven cause must be the explanation of the effect, but it ignores any other possibility of the presence of correlation without causation, right? So I kissed her, she woke up. Therefore, my kiss is what broke the curse. But straight up, it was the 12th wise woman who just said, yeah, she'll wake up after 100 years. This guy didn't know him. Everyone that started this is dead. He just saw some sleepy hottie. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna fucking make out with her.
Do you think they ever told him that it wasn't him?
I don't think they knew.
Well, I mean, everybody else who was asleep knew. Do you think
happened?
all the princes who were trying to break in, do you think they were aware of the 100-year thing?
No.
And if so, what the fuck were they doing? Were they just like, hey, there's some fresh meat in there?
If I went to the mall and it was like a mall that closed in 1996, right?
I can't wait to see where you're going with this.
Yeah, and I heard there was a gaming store and like a toy store in there. I would cut through some rose briars if I thought like I could get some like round 1 Pokemon cards. I seen that shit. They sell for like $1 million a box. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna get in. I'm gonna get some like mint in box copies of Mario 3 and some Pokemon cards from like Jungle, from the second edition or whatever. Like I might give it a shot. Like if I was like, yeah, there's a castle up on there. I bet there's treasure.
Maybe, but
right?
There's also definitely a 15-year-old who is alive but isn't gonna wake up.
I wouldn't believe that. I'd go for the treasure. But these other guys might be like, well, that's just as good. And maybe if I got in, I could say, while I was there, I pulled this sword from a stone and a ghost told me that I was the new king. So you weren't there. You didn't see it, but just trust me, which I'm sure that's another logical fallacy. This story is full of them.
I want to talk a little bit about the untold hero of this story.
Okay.
The kitchen boy.
Just get okay.
They go out of their way to talk about all the animals in the courtyard fall asleep. The flies fall asleep on the wall, and then out of nowhere, it's like the meat stops sizzling, and the cook is reaching out to yank the hair of the kitchen boy because the kitchen boy forgot something.
Yeah.
When the cook falls asleep. And then when everybody wakes up, the cook boxes the kid's ear.
I ain't done with you yet, boy.
Make him scream. Like there's a story there. That's the real story for me.
Yeah, that's that is the story.
I want more there.
The poor people that are doing all the work are going to get beat down no matter what, even 100 years later, because they forgot to put pepper in, even though the cook was probably the one that didn't tell him to put pepper in the first place.
Yeah.
Jerk.
This kid didn't do shit. He had to miss out on 100 years of history and then get smacked upside the head. Anyway.
That's what you get. But you start out at the bottom, doing dishes, getting smacked around the ears. And then eventually you work your way up to cook. Secret villain, by the way, you're talking about the secret hero. Can I tell you who I think the secret villain is?
Who?
The one good witch who was the last person there that was like, oh, you're going to curse her? I'll do you one better. I'm a good witch, but everyone has to fall asleep for 100 years.
Right. Like,
especially the servants.
How does that magic work?
Soft magic. Fine, but that's just as bad a curse as anything else. The poor servants that are in there probably have wives, kids, and shit.
Yeah.
Like, and then they're just gone. Like, dad's dead. Sorry, I went to work that day. We're not work from home. It's pre-COVID. It feels real chaotic neutral is her plan. Just like, I'll save everyone if everyone falls asleep. Fine.
If everyone falls asleep, we can save this one.
We can save this one. They're like, how is that gonna work? She's like, don't worry about it. I'll figure it out later.
It's a good trolley problem. It's funny. I hadn't thought of it that way. I was focused on, is that really the best you can do?
Yeah,
but
no, it's not. It's terrible. It's
argue
it's curses. It's as horrible as you can do.
What a trip for those poor fuckers waking up 100 years later.
The reason too given was like, well, we wouldn't want her to be lonely when she wakes up. Not like it'll take 100 years to get the poison out, so you and your grandkids and everyone's gonna have to take care of this corpse in the upstairs room for 100 years. 5 generations of them at this point in the year 1800.
Hear me out here. It's weird, but your great grandmother
is
asleep upstairs, and she's younger than you. Don't go in there.
What if I'm bored? Well, okay. I started talking about this earlier. Good on Disney for upping the ante on this story, by the way.
Yeah.
Maleficent is a dope character and villain. She's got a great name. She's vain. She can turn into a dragon.
Looks awesome.
Petty as shit. And yeah, like you said, a love letter to the goth aesthetic 20 years before that was even a thing. And just sinister. Oh, I'm not invited to the christening? Well,
I'll burn the fucker to the ground.
So don't invite me to your baby's first birthday party? Or fuck me, you say? No, my friend. You were the one who was fuck.
Should make a movie about how awesome she is.
Didn't they make a Maleficent? I never saw it.
That was the joke.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But I never saw it.
All right. Grimm story, meanwhile, no name even. Just did the curse, and that's the end. We never see her again.
Yeah, I mean, the way she's framed is pretty baller. She she bursts in, doesn't look at anyone, doesn't say anything except like yells out the curse, and then just like turns on her heel and leaves.
Done.
Pretty badass. I was gonna segue.
Okay.
Do you have anything else besides history and?
No, I just have a little bit of the history, and I have the pitch.
So I was reading this, and I was expecting the usual, and everybody talks about the lack of agency with Sleeping Beauty, and she's sleeping, and some dude comes along and kisses her.
Yeah.
When I read that he came on the day that the 100 years ends, and the rose, the thorns were already roses, and they part for him, and I'm like, oh, he doesn't even have to kiss her. This will be cool.
Yeah.
And then he kisses her anyway, and I'm like, fuck. And then I assume you've seen some of the prior older versions.
Oh yeah.
Of this from French and Italian history.
The Grimms again. We're in a Grimm is making things a lot less rapey because Jesus Christ, French people in the 1600s.
Yeah. So shall we get into that?
Yeah. No. By all means. Yeah.
I think one of the earliest origins is French, 1300s. A story called Persephorest. Basic summary: princess falls in love with a man. Her father, the king, sets him tasks to prove himself worthy. Odysseus style.
Yeah.
While he's gone, she falls into an enchanted sleep. He returns, he bangs her while she's asleep. She gets pregnant, gives birth while asleep. The baby pulls a piece of flax from her finger that had caused her sleep in the first place. She wakes up, finds that she's a mother, finds a ring that the guy had left. So assumes the baby's his, and at some point he returns and they get married. But yeah, I mean, that's where we start to get into this, I'm just gonna fuck this unconscious woman.
It's nuts. And that, like, a lot of the stories had a second part too. It's something that the Brothers Grimm purposefully left out of their story. But like after she wakes up and she's pregnant or gives birth, After it's like, I don't remember having sex, but I'm going to give birth. Has to go into hiding. We're concentrating on the Grimm text. So
Yeah. Italy 1500s. Did you come across Sun, Moon, and Talia?
I don't think so, no.
It's similar. This is Italy 1500s. Talia gets a splinter of flax in her finger and falls into an enchanted sleep. A wandering king finds her, carries her to the bed, and just rapes her.
Of course he does.
He leaves. She gets pregnant, bears twins while still asleep. One of the twins sucks on her finger, pulling the piece of flax out. Eventually, she wakes up. She's now a mother of twins.
Yeah.
Sometime later, the king comes back to check on her, finds her awake, explains the situation, and she's like, "Oh yeah, no, you're all okay." So they hit it off, and she's now his mistress. Back at his own place, his wife, the queen, eventually he's talking in his sleep or something. She eventually figures out that something's going on. She contrives to have the twins sent to her castle, and she's going to have them cooked and served to the king. The cook figures it out, protects the kids, serves them lamb instead. Eventually has Talia brought to the castle, and she's going to have her burned alive. King finally figures out what's going on, that she's in on it. And so he has her burned alive and then marries Talia, and Talia and the twins live happily ever after. They weren't even at least in Perseforest, they were lovers. They were in love.
Yeah.
This one, he's just a rando who comes across a sleeping woman and just does it up.
Yeah, it's like some college rape story. It's, I guess, was common back then. I found it interesting that the Brothers Grimm made some interesting changes. According to hero of the Brothers Dim podcast, Professor Emeritus of German of the University of Minnesota, Dr. Jack Zips,
Whoop.
The brothers didn't want to include the story at all. They certainly didn't want to include the second part. They thought it was so goddamn French. One of their friends said, okay, there's a German tale. This will get in my pitch in a bit, but there's a German tale that'll work, which is the Brünnhilde, or there's a Germanic influence to the story of a sleeping pretty woman, I guess. Do you have anything else?
Not in particular. This film versions of this go back to at least 1902.
Wow.
And a silent film version of this. And then the same director made another version a couple years later.
So nice to know reboots have been happening in Hollywood for 120 years.
Until next time.
I do have a pitch.
Let me hear.
Okay. So going back to just a couple paragraphs ago, I like the story of Brünnhilde.
Yep.
So because everyone's done this, but a Valkyrie who pissed off Odin, so he curses her, sends her down to live life as a mortal in a castle surrounded by a fire moat, and puts her in deep sleep. So this is already getting a little more movie magic, right? As opposed to just Bryce. But whereas in the original myth, it's just a dude comes along and sees a sleeping hottie and kisses her. In this one, I'd have the Valkyrie fighting through the dream world. Ooh. It's a quasi-mystical realm. Let her break the curse by herself, fighting off all these beasts and demigods that Odin put in her head to punish her. Let her take charge. She's a warrior. And then after she wakes up, she can choose to either go back and confront Odin or live her life as a mortal out her magical castle. But anyway, yeah, that's kind of it. Just Odin causes Brünnhilde the Valkyrie to sleep, and she has to fight through the dream realm.
I like it. Is she played by Tessa Thompson, the greatest Valkyrie in all screen history?
Is Tessa Thompson from the Marvel movies?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Then yeah, if she wants to. I don't want to get her into a
typecast.
Yeah, I don't want to typecast anything. But if I had an extra $1 million hanging around, and again, I don't even know how much actors get paid. Probably that much.
Might be more. I don't know.
Some of them.
It depends on the actor, I suppose. Yes. I'm an actor, and I'll do it for free.
I'm a writer. I do all my writing for free. No one publishes my books, but that's okay.
We should clarify. I'm not an actor whatsoever.
I am a writer. I'm just an unsuccessful.
You're more successful than I am.
I have sold scores of copies of books. Well, all right. That's all I have. So.
Yeah, same here.
All right. Well, if there's nothing left to say about the story, I think we can call it. Before we do that, however, Mike, is there a way for anyone to contact us if they have thoughts they wish to share? Perhaps have those thoughts shared on a future episode.
Yes, absolutely. We can be reached at brothersdim@gmail.com. We're on Blue Sky at Brothers Dim.
If there's something coming up, a story coming up you'd like to make a comment on, that's fine. If you'd like to join us, maybe even we might be able to work that out, and we would love to just even read your comments at the top of a future episode. But thank you, Mike, and thanks to all of our fans for listening. This has been story number 50, The Sleeping Beauty, Briar Rose. Sleep tight, though not for 100 years, and we will see you next time.
You're here. See you next time.